How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're starting Daf Samach, Daf 60 of Masechet Nedarim, friends. Well, today we're starting the 8th parak of Masechet Nedarim. Friends, man, we've been Nedariming for like 2 months already. That's a lot of months to be Nedar. Well, not a lot of months, but a lot of time to be Nedariming. But alright, look, Lamaisa, Nedarim's been, pretty manageable, I'd say. I think we got another very small daf over here today as well. So we're starting the 8th parak and we're talking about vows. Konam yain shani toim hayom. So if he says that he's not going to have wine hayom, eino osur ela ad shetechshach, so it's only osur until it gets dark out. Once it gets dark out, he can continue drinking wine. Shabbos zo osur b'chol Shabbos v'Shabbos l'she'ovar. If he says that he's not going to have wine for this week, and let's say it's a Wednesday, so it means for the rest of the week he's not going to drink any wine, and Shabbos would be included in that. So he can't have wine until Sunday. If he says that he's not going to have wine for this month, so it means the remainder of the month until Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh would already be considered part of the next month. When he says this year, it means the duration of the year. Rosh Hashanah would be considered part of the next year. And if he says he's not going to have wine for the rest of the Shemitah cycle, so it means the remainder of the Shemitah cycle, and Shemitah, the following Shemitah year, would be sort of the sort of final leg of that neder, i.e., it would be included in the neder. Yom Echad, but instead of saying Hayom, he said Yom Echad, one day. Well, then that means 24 hours, right? So Shabbos Achas, or if instead of saying Shabbos Zo, he says Shabbos Achas, 1 week, Chodesh Echad, 1 month, Shana Achas, 1 year, Shavua Echad, 1 Shemitah cycle, Osum Yom Liyom. Well, then it's not the duration; it's actually the equivalent of an entire one. So meaning, if he says Yom Echad, it means 24 hours. If he says Shavua Echad, it means 7 days. If he says Chodesh Echad, it means, so what do we say? I think it means 30 days, I guess. It means a full month, right? If he says a year, it means a full year. The Shemitah cycle is 7 years. Right, so it doesn't end at the end of the cycle, but it's a complete cycle, right? Like a day wouldn't end at night, it would be a full 24 hours, and for each of those the same. Fine. Ada Pesach also ad she'agia. If he says until Pesach, so that means until Pesach comes. Ad she'yehei also ad she'yetze. If he says ad she'yehei Pesach, it means until Pesach is over. Ad pnei ad Pesach, Reb Meir Omer ad also ad she'agia, Reb Yossi Omer also ad she'yetze. If he says ad pnei, so Reb Meir says it means that he'll be forbidden to drink wine until Pesach comes, whereas Rabbi Yossi says it means till after Pesach. What about Seder night? Would he be able to get fashnikin on Seder night? I wonder. I'd imagine so. Well, unless... Interesting shayla. Says the Gemara, okay, so when he says that he's not going to have any wine today, so it means that he can't have any wine till the evening. So Amr B'Yirmiyah bar Abba says, Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, you hear that? Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba says that even though the neder is over at the nighttime, but nonetheless he still has to do a Taras Nedarim. He still has to do a Taras Nedarim nonetheless. He wouldn't just be able to eat wine to drink wine at night. My time out. Rav Yosef says because we're concerned that, well, we have two things. There's Hayom and there's Yom Echad. If he says that he's not going to have wine Hayom, then he's allowed to have wine that night. If he says Yom Echad, then it means 24 hours. And we're concerned that if in the case of Hayom, we allow him to drink wine that night, as is the halacha, but he might confuse it when he says Yom Echad and think it's the same thing, that'll be able to drink wine at that night. So therefore we say, look, in order for you to be able to drink wine at night, you're going to have to do Ataras Nedarim. Omar lei Abaye says to Yosef, if that's the case, Ligzob Yom Echad Mishum Hayom, well then let's also be concerned, Punkt Fakir, that well just like by Yom Echad, by 24 hours he's going to be drinking wine then in the middle of the day, right? If he made his neder right? He says Yom Echad and it's the middle of the day, so 24 hours later is in the middle of the day. So maybe in the case of Hayom, he might also end up drinking wine in the middle of the day. So Rav Yosef says to Abaye, Hayom b'Yom Echad michalef, Yom Echad b'Hayom lo michalef. All right, we're concerned that that when he says Yom Echad, he might get confused with Hayom and end up drinking wine early. But we're not concerned the other way around. We're not concerned that when he says Hayom, he might treat it like Yom Echad and end up drinking wine in the middle of the day. All right, fine. Ravino, says Ravino, that Meremar said to him, that Meremar said to Ravino that his father, that Ravina's father said in the name of Rav Yosef, Kiman Azla Ashmaita de Yirmi bar Abba, Kirib Nosin. When Reb Yirmiyah bar Abba says that when he says Konem Yayin, what does it say? Konem Yayin Shanitoim Ayom. And the Mishnah says that already at night he's allowed to drink wine, but Reb Yirmiyah bar Abba says no, he would have to do a Hataras Nedarim in order for him to be able to drink wine. That is specifically according to Reb Nosin, that's in line, that's because he holds like Reb Nosin, the Tani Reb Nosin Omer Kol Anoder Kilu Bana Bama V'Amakaimu Kilu Makir Valeo. That Reb Nosin, of course, says that anybody who makes a neder, it's like he builds an illegal, an unsanctioned altar, and whoever is Makayim the neder, you might think it's a good thing, right? Is Makayim the neder? No, it's as if you offered a korban, an unsanctioned offering on an unsanctioned altar. So therefore, generally speaking, we wouldn't necessarily require this chomer, right? That, if he says, Konim Yaim Shaditoim Ayom, so he's not allowed to drink wine for the rest of the day, but comes the nighttime, he can drink wine. Normally, in normal circumstances, we would say, okay, comes the nighttime, we can drink wine. But specifically because of Reb Nosin, who says that you're not supposed to be making Nedarim in the first place, therefore we add this extra stringency, and we say that comes the nighttime, you're not immediately going to be able to drink wine, you would have to do Ataras Nedarim first. Shabbos o Ozbuchal Shabbos Kulu, we said that if he says he's not going to drink wine for the Shabbos, so he's not allowed to drink wine the entire week, including the following Shabbos. Pshita, that's obvious. I may have thought that when he says on Shabbos that he's not going to drink wine, right? HaShabbos, Shabbazo. So I may have thought that it means the days of the week. Yomei de Shabbos, the days of the week, but he didn't include. Right? I might think that when a person says Shabbazo, he doesn't have in mind Shabbos. Kamash Milan, that it does also include Shabbos. We say, right, so now if he says that he's not going to drink wine, Chodesh Hazeh, this month, so we say, okay, so he can't drink wine for the duration of the month, but comes Rosh Chodesh, that's already considered part of the next month. Pshita, obviously Rosh Chodesh is considered part of the next month. It's the first day of the next month. Yeah, but the Chiddush is for a Chodesh Chaser, a 29-day month. Then when you have a 29-day month, and you have 2 days of Rosh Chodesh, so day 30 of the previous month, and day 1 of the next month are both considered Rosh Chodesh. So the first day of Rosh Chodesh is really the last day of the previous month. And nonetheless, Ma'adutema may have thought Rosh Chodesh l'sha'aver have v'litzer. I may have thought that, the first day of Rosh Chodesh is the last day of the previous month. So I should think it's part of that same month, and it should be also to drink wine. Kamash Milon, Dekaru Inche Reish Yarcha. But, of course, as we know, by Nedarim Halech Acher Loshim Bnei Adam, that when it comes to Nedarim, it's based on how the people speak. As Dennis pointed out, we can use the word vernacular. There were some other suggestions as well. I would have to go back into WhatsApp there were some other great suggestions as well, alternatives, I believe. But okay, vernacular, how the people speak. And therefore, since the people call the day 30 of the month Rosh Chodesh, so it's already considered part of the next month, and you'd be able to drink wine that day. Friends, that was the Daf Samich of Masechta Nedarim. We started the 8th parak of Masechta Nedarim. We talked about the distinction between if you say you're not going to drink wine today versus for one day, right? Is it only till tonight, or is it for 24 hours? We saw the opinion of Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, who says that comes the nighttime, you can't just immediately drink wine. Rather, you have to have a Taras Nedarim first in order to be able to drink the wine. And we say that's because you shouldn't be making Nedarim in the first place. And therefore, because you shouldn't be making Nedarim in the first place, so even though technically speaking at night you should already be able to drink wine, we're going to be extra stringent and say you have to do a Taras Nedarim first. Friends, that was Daf Samich of Masechta Nedarim. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.